Pramukh Sai Maharaj was once in Sarangpur, and while he was talking, giving his discourses, in his Ashirwad, Swamiji said a very nice thing. સ્વામી એવું બોલ્યા, સ્વામી said કે આ લોકો બધા મને નોબલ પ્રાઇઝ આપવાની વાત કરે છે, પણ મને શાસ્ત્રીજી મહારાજ ને યોગીજી મહારાજ નોબલ પ્રાઇઝના પ્રાઇઝ મળી ગયા. આવા સંતો, આવા હરિભક્તો મળ્યા, આવી સેવા મળી, બીજું શું જોઈએ? What else do I need? I have the Guru, a Guru like Shastriji Maharaj, a Guru like Yogiji Maharaj. I have Haribhaktos like this. I have a Seva like this, a Satsang like this. What more do I need? Complete satisfaction. You know, in the Vachnamrit, Gadra section 1, number 67, Bhagwan Swaminarayan talks about a Satpurush like this, the characteristics of a Satpurush like this. And he says that koik Satpurush, there is a Satpurush who wishes for nothing, no materialistic pleasures of this world. The only wish he has is that of the bliss of God. કેવળ એક ભગવાનનું જ સુખ, ભગવાનમાં જ એમને આસક્તિ છે. And this is something that we see in the lives of the Satpurush, Pramukh Sai Maharaj, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj, that they're completely consumed and totally satisfied in the bliss of Bhagwan. Further, in the Vachnamrit, Bhagwan Swaminarayan says that the Satpurush is enjoying the bliss of Bhagwan, but at the same time he also wants to share that with everybody that is with them, everybody that will associate with him. And then further on he goes to say that it is important to acquire the virtues or the qualities of such a Satpurush. And then he explains how it is important, or how to acquire the qualities of the Satpurush. And Maharaj says, આમ સમજે તો મોટા સત્પુરુષના ગુણ મુમુક્ષુમાં આવે છે. તે સમજ્યાની રીત કહીએ તે સાંભળો જે પુરુષને પરમેશ્વર વિનાની બીજે ક્યાંય પ્રીતિ ન હોય તેનો એમ ગુણ ગ્રહણ કરે છે, આ પુરુષ તો અતિશય મોટા છે અને એને આગળ લાખો માણસ હાથ જોડીને ઊભા રહે છે તો પણ લેશ માત્ર સંસારના સુખને ઈચ્છતા નથી. અને હું તો અતિશય પામર છું, જે કેવળ સંસારના સુખમાં આસક્ત થઈ રહ્યો છું અને પરમેશ્વરની વાતમાં તો લેશ માત્ર સમજતો જ નથી, માટે મને ધિક્કાર છે. એવી રીતે અનુતાપ કરે અને મોટા પુરુષનો ગુણ ગ્રહણ કરે અને પોતાના અવગુણ ગ્રહણ કરીને અનુતાપ કરે, પછી એમને એમ પરિતાપ કરતે કરતે એના હૃદયને વિશે વૈરાગ્ય ઉપજે અને પછી તેમાં સત્પુરુષના જેવા ગુણ આવે છે. Maharaj says that it's important to reflect on these virtues of the Satpurush. And one who's seeking to acquire these virtues, or to acquire this happiness, to acquire this bliss, would look towards the Satpurush, reflect upon them, introspect, and then gain inspiration to acquire these virtues. You know, Maharaj says, it's very nice what Maharaj has written over here, that a person imbibes the virtues of such a Purush who has no affection for anything except God. By believing, this Purush is extremely great. Despite thousands of people standing before him with folded hands, he does not have the slightest desire for the pleasures of the world. What an incredible expression of his humility. Thousands of people folding their hands, worshipping him, yet he is not consumed by that. The level of humility that Maharaj has in this. You know, when we look at their lives, we can see that their lives are full of humility. Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj, Pujya Pramukh Swami Maharaj. When we look at the life of Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj, in the year 2016, Mahant Swami Maharaj was in Sarangpur, and it was the day after Pramukh Swami Maharaj's Antim Vidhi. Pujya Vivek Sagar Swami was delivering a parayan on the Bhakta Chintamani, and Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj walked onto that stage. The setup of the stage was such that the seat in the middle that was meant for the Guru, that's where Pramukh Swami used to sit, was where Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj was supposed to sit. And so, as soon as Mahant Swami Maharaj walked onto the stage, he walked past his own seat and he offered his respects to Pujya Vivek Sagar Swami, who was sitting on the other side. Vivek Sagar Swami ne page lagya, and pachi ત્યાંથી he walked back. Instead of sitting on the seat that was reserved for him, he walked past that to the seat next to his, which is where he would normally be sitting. He is now the Guru, and he should be sitting on the Guru's chair. But Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj said it very nicely just recently on August the 20th, when, that was the day when the Santos was sitting in front of Mahant Swami Maharaj and reminded him that, Swami, today was the day when we did Pramukh Swami Maharaj's Suvarna Tula in London. Today was the same date when we did the Platinum Tula in the USA. And Bapa, today was the same day when Pramukh Swami Maharaj wrote that letter to you. I think Mahant Swami Maharaj wasn't even aware of that date of that letter. Not only that, such a big thing, but for Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj, what he said very nicely was, he goes, Mane lagtu જ નથી કે હું ગુરુ છું. And we see this, a reflection of his humility. In speech, in the way he interacts with Bhagwan, in the way he interacts with his gurus, in the way he interacts with the disciples, in his talks, all these aspects would reflect Swami Shri's humility. And this is what we try to strive to aspire towards. The more we think about it, the more we talk about it, the more we gain inspiration about their lives. Pramukh Swami Maharaj would often say, Dasana das thai rahe satsangama, bhakti teni bhali manish rachis tena rangama. In Gadra section 2, number 62, Bhagwan Swaminarayan explains the characteristics of a bhakta who offers devotion with utmost humility. Maharaj એવું કહે છે કે એના લક્ષણ કેવા છે તો તેને પોતાના જ ઈષ્ટદેવ છે તેનું દર્શન ગમે. He just loves doing darshan of his ઈષ્ટદેવ. તેની જ વાર્તા સાંભળવી ગમે. He loves to listen to anybody talk about him. પોતાના ઈષ્ટદેવનો જ સ્વભાવ ગમે છે અને તેની જ પાસે રહેવું ગમે છે. When we reflect on this, we notice how Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj, in his life, there is nothing but Thakurji. Bhagwan સિવાય બીજું એમને કંઈ છે જ નહીં. It's almost like a guru, it's almost like a servant who's always thinking about nothing else but his master. Very, very subservient. Mahant Swami Maharaj was in Melbourne in the year 2018. There was a night flight from Singapore to Melbourne. It was a very long flight. Swami Shri had got into Melbourne around 2:30 a.m. And that's when he went to sleep at 2:30 a.m. And as usual, Swami Shri woke up very early in the morning. And according to the routine, the idea was puja, nasto, breakfast, and then everybody would go to sleep because of the jet lag. And that was what was scheduled in. So all the santos and the karikas got ready. Mahant Swami Maharaj did his puja. It wasn't public, it was just in the room. He did his puja. And the next idea was that let's bring the breakfast forward so that once we have breakfast, all the santos who were there was just feeling that once we have breakfast, we can go to sleep. And so they brought the breakfast in front of Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj. And to everybody's surprise, in fact, Mahant Swami Maharaj showed so much surprise. He says, but what about Aarti? Aarti karwani nathi? Aarti karwani baki rahi gayi thi. None of us had thought about it, but Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj was very quick to point out about it. The first thing that comes to his mind is Thakurji. And how, Swami Shri was in Godhra. And generally what would happen was, as soon as Mahant Swami Maharaj would walk onto the stage for the evening sabha, the karyakars or the santos would give him the arti, and then he would offer the arti to Maharaj and do the arti. But what would happen was, on this day, the stage decoration had changed. People from the village and outskirts of the villages in the outskirts had already come for a special sabha. So the decoration had changed. And the decoration was much more humble than what you normally see. It was basically a small hut. And so Mahant Swami Maharaj was going to be sitting inside a hut. Within the hut was a murti of Akshar Purushottam Maharaj seated on an asan. And on this side was Pramukh Swami Maharaj. As soon as Mahant Swami Maharaj came onto the stage, he started to say something. It was very difficult to hear what he was trying to say. And immediately, the Karyakas offered him the arti, and they played the arti, so he started doing the arti. But you could see some level of discomfort in his face, even while he was doing arti. And then obviously he finished off the arti, but all the santos and the Karyakas realized at that point that what Swami was uncomfortable about was that in the decoration, or the panel in the back, they had a very nice image of Akshar Purushottam Maharaj seated on a very simple seat. There was a nice murti of Pramukh Swami Maharaj, again seated on a very simple seat. And yet in the middle, there was this very lavishly decorated asan seat for Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj. That's what he was very uncomfortable about. The santos very quickly changed the seat and brought a very simple seat for Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj to sit on. But then he went on to say to the santos that, how do you expect me to sit on something like this? When you have Bhagwan Swaminarayan and Guru Pramukh Sai Maharaj seated on such a simple asan, how can I sit on something so lavish and so grand? It comes natural to him. For us, it could just be for the normal person, it might just be some sort of decoration on the stage. But for Mahant Sai Maharaj, he's very conscious that Bhagwan Swaminarayan is there, because sometimes, murtis are on the stage, but there's no reference to it. It's just a piece of decoration. But for Pujya Mahant Sai Maharaj, he could see that Pramukh Sai Maharaj is also here and Akshar Purushottam Maharaj is here. I cannot sit on such a lavish, decorated seat. And this is one thing that we noticed about Pujya Mahant Sai Maharaj. For him, Thakurji was everything, is everything. First thing, there is an image of Nilkant Varni that Swami keeps in his room. And that's the murti that you could see. It's his favorite murti. And that's the murti that Swami is always doing darshan of. Swami used to wake up early in the morning. His normal wake-up time is about 3:15. And after he would wake up, he would do his special mudras, that he would do dhyan and mudra. But before, the first thing in the morning, when he sits down, the first thing he would ask for would be, give me that image of Nilkant Varni. And he would hold that murti in front of him. And for so long, do darshan of the murti. Doing darshan of the same murti every day. We have our puja murtis every day. How often, it's very difficult to keep looking at that same murti all the time. Not everybody does that. And Pujya Mahant Sai Maharaj has this image of Nilkant Varni every day, as if he were having a conversation. It's just very nice to see this level of humility and this bhakti that Swami has in his life, that is very reflective of his devotion, of his love towards Thakurji. Another thing that we notice about Pujya Mahant Sai Maharaj's humility is in his interactions with all the santos and all the Hari Bhaktos. Yogiji Maharaj in the Yogi Gita quotes this, a quote from the Vachnamat, Gadra section 1, number 58, where Shriji Maharaj says, Ke Pakko Hari Bhakta kene janwo, defining a true Hari Bhakta. Hari Bhakta tena dasno das thine રહેવું તે. જે હરિ ભક્તના દાસને દાસના દાસ થઈને રહેવું તે એવો પાક્કો હરિભક્ત થયાનો તો એ જ ઉપાય છે. Now he explains, how does one become such a પાક્કો હરિભક્ત? પરમેશ્વરના દાસનો ગુલામ થઈને રહે અને એમ જાણે છે એ સર્વે ભક્ત મોટા છે અને હું તો સર્વથી ન્યૂન છું. That he believes that all the Hari Bhaktos are much greater than I am. And I am just subservient. I am just a servant. Hari Bhakta, Parmeshwarna Bhaktano Gulam. The servant of a Hari Bhakt of Bhagwan. And this level of humility, or this Nirmani Panu, is what we can see in Pujya Mahant Sai Maharaj. Yogiji Maharaj, often in the way he would address people, Yogi Maharaj would, with utmost respect, Yogiji Maharaj would always call somebody Guru. Guru, have you done this? Guru, have you done this? Guru, when are we leaving? These are very respectful ways in which Yogiji Maharaj would speak. Even when the postman would come, Yogiji Maharaj would say, Tapali Saheb aayva che. Tapali Saheb. So even respecting, people generally would not say things like that. But Yogiji Maharaj offered respect in every way possible, whenever he talked to anybody. Again, same thing we would see in Pujya Mahant Sai Maharaj. ક્યારે કોઈને તું કરીને બોલાવ્યા નથી, કોઈને તું કહીને સ્વામી નથી બોલાવ્યા. ઓલવેઝ તમે આમ ગમે તેટલા નાના સાધુ હોય કે બાળક હોય કે યુવક હોય, પણ સ્વામી બધાને તમે કરીને જ બોલાવે છે. Again, another reflection of his respect towards the Hari Bhaktos. Pujya Mahant Sai Maharaj was in Oakland at one time in 2018. And the campus is, it's a very modest campus where, a small group of Hari Bhaktos and a lot of interactions were available with Pujya Mahant Sai Maharaj. The barracks would get a lot of time with Pujya Mahant Sai Maharaj. In fact, in one day, you would get barracks who would get a tap on the head almost 4 times. Whenever Swami leaves his room, whenever he would leave the hall, so that would happen twice a day, morning and evening, all the Hari Bhaktos would line up and the barracks would line up to get blessings from Pujya Mahant Sai Maharaj. On one occasion, Swamiji was leaving the main hall to go towards his Utaro, towards his residence. And on the way, there were a group of, Hari Bhaktas that were lined up. And Swami was meeting each of the Hari Bhaktas, blessing them and meeting each of them. And in a distance, he saw a little boy, a small barak that was carried by his grandfather. And Swamiji walked up to that barak and then played with him a little bit. And the barak raised his hand. So Pujya Mahant Sai Maharaj grabbed his hand, started playing with the hand. When the barak raised his other hand, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj bowed down, put his head down, and took the blessings. And the little Badak very innocently placed his hand on Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj's head, seeking blessings from the Satpurush. The Satpurush was seeking blessings from a little Badak. I think it was very nice to see this, because, he is the Guru, and the Guru is taking blessings from a little Badak. Mahant Swami Maharaj was in Bochasan, and on the occasion of Guru Purnima, lots of santos had come in from all over to seek blessings from their Guru. Mahant Swami Maharaj, in the morning, as he left the room, he met all the santos that were sitting in the hall. And as he was walking out of the main Sabha Mandap to go towards Thakurji, he saw Pujya Atmaswarup Swami standing. So he walked towards Pujya Atmaswarup Swami, and Atmaswarup Swami raised his hands out just to seek blessings, and he bowed. And Mahant Swami Maharaj very quickly grabbed Pujya Atmaswarup Swami's hands and placed them on his own head. On the day of Guru Punam, when the Guru is supposed to be offering his blessings to the Shishya, it is here that the Guru is taking blessings from the Shishyas. Atmaswarup Swami felt very uncomfortable, because nobody would want their Guru to do that. But obviously this is Mahant Swami Maharaj's humility that we see over here. When Mahant Swami Maharaj went upstairs for darshan, and after doing Thakurji's darshan, after doing Aarti, he met Pujya Kothari Swami in the Pradakshina. As soon as he saw Pujya Kothari Swami, so Kothari Swami again, bowed down and placed his hands out to seek blessings from Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj. Again, Mahant Swami Maharaj very quickly took Pujya Kothari Swami's hands and was trying to take the blessings of Pujya Kothari Swami. But Kothari Swami was very fast. So he dropped his hands, quickly took his hands away, and he goes, "No, Swami, that's not what happened." He quickly grabbed Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj's hands and placed them on his own head, took blessings from Mahant Swami Maharaj. But again, a Guru taking blessings from his Shishya. As he walked into the Pradakshina, further on he saw Pujya Krishna Vallabh Swami sitting on the side over there, on the ledge on the side. He walked up to Krishna Vallabh Swami. Normally what would happen was Krishna Vallabh Swami would place his hands out, and Mahant Swami Maharaj would tap his hands and say Jai Swaminarayan. So Vallabh Swami unexpectedly placed his hands out, and Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj took Vallabh Swami's hands and was about to place them on his own head. But again, Vallabh Swami was very quick, so he took his hands away and he says, "Swami, no, that can't happen. This is reverse. It shouldn't happen this way." But again, we see Swami Shri naturally. Swami બોલ્યા ને કે હું ગુરુ છે એવું મને મનાતું જ નથી. So we see this level of humility in Swami Shri. Swami was during the trip in Australia, Swami met a group of Haribhaktas, met two Haribhaktas, and he heard an incident where two brothers were not getting along. And they had decided that obviously Mahant Swami Maharaj would talk a lot about Samp and unity. And so they had decided that, they were going to resolve their issues and seek Mahant Swami Maharaj's blessings. So Pujya Atmaswarup Swami brought them to Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj. And he explained the whole scenario, and that they were ready to forget their differences and forgive each other and carry on as normal. As soon as Mahant Swami Maharaj heard this, Swami Shri bowed down to both the Haribhaktas and touched their feet. Again, it's very, some things that we don't normally see, but this is something that we notice, that when the opportunity arises, એમના અંતરની અંદર જે વિચાર છે કે મારે બધાને નમતા રહેવું છે, બધાને દંડવત કરવા છે, when the opportunity arises, he's very quick to take that. Many of us might have heard of the incident about Kushal, a Badak or a Kishore, a Yuvak that lives in Australia and Gold Coast. He has difficulty in seeing. And Mahant Swami Maharaj often would talk about his bhakti and his devotion. In puja, he would sing bhajans. One day, Mahant Swami Maharaj, on the last day of the Shibir in Gold Coast, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj called Kushal up, was looking for Kushal. As soon as Kushal came up, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj waited for Kushal to come. And as soon as Kushal came, Kushal goes, "Mahant Swami, su ape mane yaad karyo?" And Mahant Swami Maharaj got up from his seat. Kushal was not aware of what was happening because he couldn't see. And Mahant Swami Maharaj touched Kushal's feet, asking for his blessings as well. Obviously, Kushal was taken aback. He became very emotional because didn't expect this to happen from his guru. But at the same time, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj took the opportunity to take his blessings as well. Swami had gone to Perth, Mandir in Perth. Swami's accommodation was elsewhere, but on this day, Swami had gone to visit, to do darshan of Thakurji. And then after doing darshan, he was just taking a tour of the rest of the campus. As he was walking around, the Haribhaktas were just explaining and giving them Mahant Swami Maharaj a small tour. And they came to a room where there was this a rack where you could put beddings or stuff that you would normally put shelf in a rack. And it was a very simple looking rack. And the Santos told Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj, Swami, this is where GJ is Ghanshyam Bhai, who used to do seva used to be originally in Chicago, and then for many years through Bapa's Agna, he spent time in Australia doing seva in Perth as the pujari over there. So he was doing seva in Australia. And so the Santos showed that, Swami, this is where GJ used to do seva. And this is where he used to sleep. So, it was a very simple lifestyle. He would sleep he wasn't sleeping on the floor or on a special bed, but just in the middle of the rack. Mahant Swami Maharaj was very surprised to see this. But again, as soon as they introduced this, Mahant Swami Maharaj mahima samajyo. And Mahant Swami Maharaj e jagyane charan sparsh kare. He just touched that place and took blessings as if GJ was actually there and took blessings for that place as well. Again, a very nice gesture to see Swami Shri's humility over there. Mahant Swami Maharaj was once asked, Maharaje Vachnamritma વાત કરી છે, Gadra section 1 number 74, કે ભગવાનનો જે આપણે તો ભગવાનના, મહારાજ says that જે સાચો ભક્ત છે એ કેવું વિચારે કે આપણે તો ભગવાનના દાસ છે. તે ભગવાનની ઈચ્છા હશે તેમ સત્સંગની વૃદ્ધિ થશે અને ભગવાનને જેમ ગમે તેમ રાજી રહેવું. લીવ એવરીથિંગ અપ ટુ ધ વિલ ઓફ ભગવાન. જે ભગવાન કરશે એ સારું જ કરશે. એ સાચા દાસના લક્ષણ છે. The true characteristics of a bhakta who exemplifies or who has humility is this. And Mahant Swami Maharaj lives that life. We saw this in Pramukh Swami Maharaj. We saw this in Yogiji Maharaj. The Satpurush carries on with these virtues. Mahant Swami Maharaj was in Sarangpur. It was Pramukh Varni Din, and all the Santos sat on the stage and they were questioning. It was a question-answer session with Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj. At that time, one of the Santos asked Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj, Swami, on the day when you heard that you were going to be the next guru, obviously they must have had this conversation, and Pramukh Swami Maharaj has written that letter. How did you feel that it was you who's going to be the guru? Mahant Swami Maharaj very casually said, Jevi Bhagwanni ichha hase, em thase. It was all up to, he goes, મેં તો બધું ભગવાન ઉપર છોડી દીધું છે. Left it all up to ભગવાન, કે ભગવાન જેમ કરશે ને એમ થશે. મહારાજે વચનામૃતમાં વાત કરીને કે જે સાચો દાસ હોય એ ભગવાનની ઈચ્છા પ્રમાણે જેનું જીવન બને છે એ આપણને દેખાય છે. Even in his teachings, in 2017, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj was in London. On the day of Diwali, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj gave blessings. The topic of his blessings, of his Ashirwad, was about Nirmanipanu, how to become humility and the importance of humility. The next day was Ankut. Again, on the day of Ankut, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj again spoke about the importance of humility. And this is something that is very natural to him. This is something that is innate, a virtue that the Satpurush carries with him all the time, and it's so obvious. In fact, this is the one virtue. When Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj was once asked કે પ્રમુખ સ્વામી મહારાજનો તમને કયો ગુણ અતિશય સ્પર્શી ગયો છે? Which virtue of Pramukh Swami Maharaj did you catch out very quickly, was the first thing that struck so loud to you? And Mahant Swami Maharaj said it was Pramukh Swami Maharaj's humility. It was his Nirmanipanu. And again, this is the same thing that we see with Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj. Even in his teachings, this would keep coming up. Mahant Swami Maharaj was in Sydney, and as he walked off the stage after the evening sabha, there was a group of barracks that had lined up. So Mahant Swami Maharaj walked down the stairs, and he was tapping the kids on the heads, and then suddenly he stopped and he asked, Naam? What's your name? Tame kon cho? He said, Tame kon cho? And the barak, just naturally said his own name. And Mahant Swami Maharaj, no, Das. Das na Das che. So the barak goes, yes, I am a Das. Then he walked to the next barak. Name, and again that barak said his own name, and Mahant Swami Maharaj goes, Das na Das che. So the rest of the baraks, they quote on. And as soon as Mahant Swami Maharaj asked each of them their names, they would say their name, and then they would say Das na Das after that. So as soon as he got off the stage and he met all the baraks, there was a group of Hari Bhaktas that were sitting in the front. So Mahant Swami Maharaj told Atma Swarup Swami, Tame Hari Bhaktone pucho, ke tame kon cho? Obviously they quote on very quickly, and all of them folded their hands and said, Ame to das na das che. Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj, even in his teachings, he's teaching us how to become a das, and humility is something that we can see in his life. One thing that we knew about Pramukh Swami Maharaj often would say that bijana sukhma apru sukh. In the joy of others lies our own. To live a life like that is what Pramukh Swami Maharaj's life reflected. It requires an immense amount of humility, because it is at this time when a person starts to think about other people rather than themselves. And this is exactly what we see in Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj. He's always thinking about other. When you are able to think about other people and put other people's needs before your own, it is another mark of their own humility, because it requires such an immense amount of flexibility. Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj was in Atladra, and on his way back from Sabha in the car, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj just spontaneously, talking about Pramukh Swami Maharaj, said, કે પ્રમુખ સ્વામી મહારાજે બધાના મન સાચવ્યા છે. He's looked after everybody. This was something that he had heard in the Katha previously. And this is exactly what we see in the life of Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj. Swamiji was in Shimla for the occasion of the Murti Pratishtha of that mandir in Shimla. It was very, very cold. And Swami was there for 2-3 days. Swami was there. Swami's accommodation was in a new hotel. When Swamiji woke up in the morning to go for a shower, the sevak had noticed that there wasn't any hot water. The water was very cold. And so quickly the sevak went and got 2 buckets of hot water and kept it ready for Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj. As soon as Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj was ready to take a shower, he noted, when the sevak turned on the shower, there was no more water in the shower. So Swami had to make do with these 2 buckets. And so the morning routine was over. Swami showered with the 2 buckets, got ready with the 2 buckets, and the next day, just preempting everything else, the sevak prepared everything again. So both the buckets of hot water were ready. Mahant Swami Maharaj ready to take a shower, take a bath. As soon as the first bucket of water, as soon as Swami was done with the first bucket of water, and the sevak was about to start with the second bucket of water, suddenly Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj said, "Stop." And so the sevak said, "Swami, we still haven't finished your bath." And Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj says, "Only 1 bucket," which was very surprising, because what had happened was the day before, when Swami was about to take a shower, as I mentioned earlier, that the water had run out. The water had run out throughout the hotel. So all the residents in the hotel, the Santos and all the Hari Bhaktos, they had to wait till the water came back. And because everybody had started to take a bath at the same time, the water naturally had run out. And so there was an announcement that had been made during Swami Shri's lunch that, we request all the Hari Bhaktas and all the Santos to just make do with 1 bucket of water. Mahant Swami Maharaj incredibly took that request to himself. And so the next morning, when he was his turn to take a shower, he made sure that he used only 1 bucket. The sevak insisted, "Look, Swami, there's another extra bucket of water. What are we going to do with this bucket of water? We can't just pour it away." And Swami turned around and said, "You know what? The sevak sant next door, Pujya Sancharit Swami, his room is next door." And he said, "Why don't you go and take the bucket for him? Haji emne navanu baki hase." To think about somebody else at a time like this. Jare thandi che, it is very cold. And, sometimes on a cold morning, it's very difficult to get out of the shower when the water is nice and warm. But yet, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj made sure that he stuck to the 1 bucket rule. Not only that, he made sure that the other bucket was delivered to the sevak. Pramukh Swami Maharaj used to say, "In the joy of others lie our own." Mahant Swami Maharaj ઘણી વાર એમ કહે છે કે સંપ શું છે, તો જે આખું એનું અડધું કરીને બીજાને આપે, અડધાનું પણ અડધું કરીને આપે, એને સંપ કહેવાય. These things are reflected in the life of Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj. How he cares about other people. Again, that is another reflection of how Swami Shri doesn't think about doesn't think about himself, but always thinks about other people. Mahant Swami Maharaj was in Godhra, and the sevak Sant Pujya Uttam Yogi Swami had fallen ill at that time. And Uttam Yogi Swami had just joined the sevak group at that time. And Mahant Swami Maharaj would often ask, because he didn't see Uttam Yogi Swami, he goes, "Yogi ne kem che?" He knew that he wasn't well, so he would keep asking, "Yogi ne kem che? Yogi ne kem che?" On one afternoon, Swami was already late, to go to sleep. And so all the sevaks were trying to rush everything up. As Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj comes in and was about to go to bed, suddenly Swami Shri gets onto the sofa and he sits down on the sofa. And he asks the sevak for a red book. The red book is a book with all the homeopathic medicines or the prescriptions that are written in there. And he sat down, he started to read. And so all the santos gathered around him and said, "Swami, what are you looking for?" And Mahant Swami Maharaj said, "Well, Yogi isn't well, so I want to look for some medication for him." And it took a good 15 minutes to look through for something like this. It was getting late. Everybody was tired. Everybody wanted to go to sleep. Mahant Swami Maharaj carried on. Mahant Swami Maharaj carried on. And then the other Santos said, Swami, look, let's do this. We'll look for it later on. I'll look for it. One of the Sevak Santos said, I'll look for it. You go to rest right now. Once we find the medication, and then we can pick it up in the afternoon after you wake up. And so Swami said, okay, fine, let's do that. And he put the book aside, went to rest, got up in the afternoon. Again, the first thing, he said, leave the book on the table. As soon as he woke up, the first thing he did was again this, thinking about other people. This is something that we see, again, another expression of Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj's humility. As we mentioned earlier, that in the joy of others, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj was in Melbourne. And as soon as the Swami Shri had finished his puja and finished his breakfast, Swami was going back towards his room. As he was walking towards the room, there was a yuvak standing in the corner next to the door. Next to the door to the entrance of Swami Shri's accommodation. And there's a young yuvak by the name of Hasmukh. So he was standing over there. And he was just there folding his hand and smiling. Mahant Swami Maharaj has an incredible way of connecting with people. And this was something very nice to see. What Swami did was Swami walked up to the yuvak and then suddenly stood in front of him, looked him in the face, and then pushed him. And this was very shocking for everybody else. It was shocking for Hasmukh, to say the least, because to get pushed by the Satpurush is it's something that you don't expect. And so everybody was wondering what happened. Did he do something wrong? Immediately, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj pointed towards a sign. There was a sign on the door. When you normally have a swing door that can go both ways, there was a sign that said push. And so Mahant Swami Maharaj says, push lakhyu છે ને એટલે આપણે એને push કર્યું. A very funny moment because everybody was laughing. But for Hasmukh, this became an incredible moment of connection with the Satpurush. He was very smart. Again, the next day he came and stood at the same spot. Again, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj saw that sign, pushed him again. Day number 3, Hasmukh comes in again. This became a routine now for them. Every day Hasmukh would come, stand over there, Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj would push him, and Hasmukh would get his smriti. In fact, even when Swami was in the car, and if he saw Hasmukh, Swami would actually do an action of, a push action, and give him a very nice smriti like this. But on one occasion, as Swami was about to walk towards his accommodation, towards his room, Hasmukh was blocking the door. And so everybody was getting a little agitated, that Hasmukh, you should move out so that Swami can proceed. Mahant Swami Maharaj, very calm, he knew exactly where this was going. And then Hasmukh moved aside, and he had changed the sign on the door, and it said pull. You could pull that door as well. The sign read pull. And he said to Mahant Swami Maharaj, look Swami, the sign has changed. It used to be push, and now it says pull. Mahant Swami Maharaj very quickly walked up to Hasmukh, grabbed his shoulders, pulled him close, and then gave him a hug. He hugged him very nicely. Again, another, priceless memory for someone like Hasmukh. But it was just very nice to see how accommodating Swami was and the way in which Swami would find a way to connect with him. We spoke about Kushal. Kushal, Mahant Swami Maharaj was in Sydney. And, Swami had done his puja. And normally what would happen was, as soon as Swami would do his puja, he would walk out and get into the car, and the car would drive off towards Swami Shri's Utaro. And on this occasion, all the Santos and all the Hari Bhaktas had come from all over to celebrate the Full Doll festivities in Sydney. So Kushal had come all the way from Gold Coast to celebrate this festival with Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj. And as the car was driving past, Mahant Swami Maharaj had finished his puja, he got into the car, and as they were driving off, the driver would drive it very slowly so Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj would meet everybody. But as they were driving past, suddenly Mahant Swami Maharaj saw Kushal from the corner of his eye. And Mahant Swami Maharaj said, stop the car. But obviously, because he spoke very softly, nobody heard it. And so the driver carried on driving. And again, Mahant Swami Maharaj said, stop, stop, stop. So then when everybody realized that Mahant Swami Maharaj asking to stop the car, the driver stopped the car. Mahant Swami Maharaj says, Kushal che, Kushal. He noticed Kushal, and then he said, take the car back, let's go meet Kushal. So Mahant Swami Maharaj, they brought the car back, he reversed the car. Obviously, to everyone's surprise, the car stopped at Kushal. Mahant Swami Maharaj, the driver pushed the button and rolled down the window. And Mahant Swami Maharaj started to interact with Kushal. Kushal was very surprised, obviously, that Mahant Swami Maharaj મને મળવા માટે આવ્યા છે. અને પછી એને સ્પર્શનું સુખ આપ્યું. Mahant Swami Maharaj grabbed his hands and blessed him accordingly. Afterwards, we found out that Mahant Swami Maharaj એવું બોલ્યા કે બિચારાને દેખાતું નથી, this is the only way or the only level of interaction that he might be able to have. Again, it's very sensitive to what other people's needs are. The fact that Kushal could not see was one thing that had registered in Swami's mind, and he was finding everybody else, we can appreciate the fact that we're able to see the Satpurush. Kushal was not able to visually see the Satpurush, and this was his only way of interacting with the Satpurush. So in little things like this, we notice how Mahant Swami Maharaj constantly also thinks about other people. There are lots of prasangs like this. Let's pray to Maharaj and Swami that we too can imbibe these virtues in our lives. Shri Swaminarayan Bhagwanani Jai.
Thank you for joining us today and listening with such devotion. Bhagavan Swaminarayan has taught us the power of listening to Katha. It purifies our mind and brings us closer to God. So if this Katha helped you, give it a like, subscribe for more, and share it with someone you care about. Until next time, Jai Swaminarayan.